Hey everybody, it's Melissa Ramos, nutritionist, acupuncturist, and owner and creator of Sexy Food Therapy. Today on this week's Sexy Scoop, I'm really excited because I have a special guest with me, and that's Alex Jamieson. She's a chef and she's an author of The Great American Detox Diet. Plus, she's a health consultant and she was a co-star of the Oscar-nominated feature documentary film Super Size Me with Morgan Spurlock.
I just don't know if I can. Of course I will. I'll sit next to him while he eats McDonald's. Of course I will. I'm just going to be rolling my eyes the whole time.
Thank you so much, Alex, for joining me here today.
My pleasure.
I know that you're crazy busy, and we were just talking before we started recording this about how everyone's busy these days.
Yes, it's like a plague across the land. The belief that if we're not outrageously busy, then we're not really being productive. I don't know. It's something about that.
Totally, and I think it's just something that we all have to sort of strive to, be a little bit more balanced and grounded and take some more me time, I think is really huge. And I definitely have a question for you a little bit later on about balance, so that's going to be a big one.
Okay, I'll do my best.
So I guess I want to start off, and I'm sure a lot of people know, who you are, but, just to kind of take it back a little bit about how you essentially started. I know that you're a health consultant, but, you went to end up being co-starring in this, like, crazy, successful documentary. And did you expect it to kind of go the way it all went?
No, I had just finished culinary school when I met Morgan, and we started dating, and all I talked about was quinoa and kale. This was like 15 years ago, before kale had its major marketing resurgence that it's enjoying now.
Yeah, so
And
fashionable.
I know. I wish I had Kale's branding. And Morgan was a budding filmmaker. And when we came up with the idea for Super Size Me, it was based on the fact that there were these two teenage girls who were suing McDonald's for their health problems.
Yeah.
And he thought that was kind of ridiculous. And I said, well, let's look at how they market to children. I mean, these were teenage girls who were eating their breakfast, lunch, and dinner
Yeah.
because that's what the advertising said was appropriate. And okay, that's how our culture has been kind of brainwashed to think that we can eat junk food for every meal. And he said, well, what would happen if I just ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner McDonald's?
Yeah.
Bing! Light
Yeah.
bulb moment. So that was the inception of the film. I was the only one out of all of his health care providers who said, you're going to get so sick, dude. You are going to be miserable. All of his doctors said, no, the human body's resilient. You'll be okay. They were so floored. And I think Super Size Me really was the beginning of most mainstream doctors beginning to really look at nutrition as a cause of disease.
Which is crazy because I mean it did. It ended up showing so much exposure about the film and really, really revealed it quite a bit.
Mhm.
And I know that you've been in the media quite a bit, being on CNN and so forth, and it just kind of you've done quite a bit. But I know that you also recently got, or not recently, but you've been in trouble a couple of times, and one of which that I want to be able to talk to you about is the whole idea of when you were saying that your son comes second and you come first. And I absolutely love this because this is something actually my mother used to say to me because she's actually the one who helped promoted me and kind of encouraged me to get into the health industry. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, yeah. Morgan and I are no longer together. We're divorced, but we do have a 7-year-old son together. And he's the light of my life. He's freaking awesome. He's the coolest kid. I'm so biased. But he's fantastic. I would lay down in front of a car to save him. However, I am running a business, I'm raising a kid, I have a partner, and life is full. And
Yeah.
being someone who's out there, you may experience this as well. You're trying to get a message out, you're trying to help people get what they need. It can be totally exhausting. And I find that as I get older, I need more and more self-care. I need more and more time for myself, that I have to put my own needs for rejuvenation, replenishment, rest ahead of sometimes his need for me to play Legos. You know, I now I get down and dirty. I do fun stuff for sure, But if mama ain't happy and nourished, ain't nobody happy and nourished. And I realized I need to provide a really good example. You can tell your kids eat well, be healthy, but if you don't show them how to do it and like you take it seriously, they're never going to follow through with it either. So I often go to bed with my kid. Like 8:30, he's in bed, I'm going to bed too,
Good for you.
just so that I can get that 8, 9 hours of sleep most nights of the week.
No, that's great, and I applaud you for coming out with that on your blog because I was, reading it and just going, this is awesome because I think that's what ends up happening is women just end up sacrificing themselves, and then it's like, how can you actually grow anything with a cracked foundation? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it's really impossible. And believe me, I tried. I tried to do it that way.
Yeah.
And it didn't work. My body started to fall apart again. And I had to really get serious. Like, all right, no more cell phone in the bedroom.
Yes.
I got to get 9 hours of sleep, and the phone cannot be within arm's reach. I cannot have access to email for the first hour of my day because otherwise I will be on cortisol up,
Yeah.
adrenals.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the second part of my question was the other area where I saw that you got in a little bit of hot water was when you came out and said, "I'm not vegan anymore." So
Yes.
tell us a little bit about that because that was kind of a big deal.
That was a bigger deal than anything I've ever done, I think, unfortunately. So I became vegan, this was about 14 years ago, and for over a decade, it worked wonders for me. It helped me heal my body the first time when I was 25, and I was suffering from migraine headaches 4 or 5 days a week, 30 pounds overweight, depressed, exhausted, in pain.
Mm,
It worked great. And then after I had my son and Morgan and I were getting divorced, I was under a lot of stress. And your body changes as you get older.
yeah.
My hormones were shifting, and my menstrual cycle was coming every 14 to 16
Oh
days.
God.
It was exhausting, and I tried everything within the vegan framework to fix it. Superfoods, sea vegetables, more protein, nothing worked. And I was craving meat for the first time in a decade. And I realized, actually, it was my acupuncturist who looked at me and she was like, "You need to eat liver. Like, you need organ meat."
Yeah.
I did not listen to her. I wouldn't hear it. But I realized that I was counseling my clients to learn to listen to their bodies, but I was not allowing myself the same compassion.
Yeah.
And I finally, like in secret, started eating eggs at home, in the darkness of my kitchen in private so nobody could see me.
Yeah.
And my body felt so much better.
It
My
responded.
It responded. Emotionally, I was having a lot of issues with it. And I went back and forth, like, okay, now I've done it, I'll try to be vegan again. And I just kept wanting the fish and then having meat and, really becoming an omnivore again. And I thought, after about a year of this going back and forth, I thought, I gotta talk about this. I
Mm-hmm.
know I'm not the only one going through this. People change as their bodies get older.
Absolutely.
So I finally, came out as no longer vegan online, and geez, within a few hours, the thing went crazy viral. People just attacking me online and personally, people who had been friends of mine doing podcasts all about how terrible I was. And it was really, really challenging to go through that because I thought, oh my gosh, I'm ruining my career. I'm losing friends. This is terrible. Wait a minute, this is nuts. Like, we're all animals. Some animals need to eat other animals sometimes
Yeah.
to be healthy. And I finally got to the place within myself where I'm like, I am not a bad person for needing to eat some fish and eggs and sometimes some beef.
Yeah.
It doesn't make me an immoral person.
Yeah. And I think that there's like a whole area of like food shaming there as well, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I saw it happen over and over again to other people who were also vegan, and I kind of became the vegan confessional booth. People would come to me and say, "I'm going through the same thing, but I can't tell anyone because my entire business is based on the vegan community,
Yeah.
or I only have friends who are animal rights activists. They had no support." But I've also had people come to me who have written books about the paleo diet, and they've said, I've had to go plant-based for a while, but don't tell anyone.
Yes,
So people from both sides, our bodies change, and it's
absolutely.
maybe it's not as sexy to try to sell a book that says, "Hey, be you," but that's kind of what I'm trying to do is create this place online and in my programs where people can come and without shame, without fear of being attacked, find what works best for them.
And I think that's really important because, there are times where I eat very paleo. And
Hmm.
then all of a sudden, for a week, I'm sitting there going, I'm craving quinoa and with like lots of tahini spread over top of it and tons of vegetables. And I want something
Right.
vegan. And, I really don't like the labels I think that people tend to put on us. And I think that the labels just onto itself ends up creating a lot of anxiety and shaming, which I think is the opposite of what we're supposed to be doing.
It does, and people have asked me since, "Oh, are you paleo now?" And I'm never defining how I eat ever
Yeah.
again. I eat what I need on a meal to meal basis. And I think that when we define ourselves, especially with how we eat, because it's so personal, it's so emotional, it's so spiritual, it's so everything, it's who we are. When we
Mm-hmm.
define that, it separates us from
Absolutely.
others, either intentionally or unintentionally.
Well, especially since we're such intricate beings to begin with. And food really is, I always say in practice, it's a reflection of yourself. So if food's a reflection of yourself, like defining that, like it's so difficult to define us as human beings because there's so many different facets of us,
Hmm.
you know? So, I think that that's really interesting. And you went on to do sort of this TV documentary series, which I thought was really interesting, 30 Days, where you
Hmm.
were living off minimum wage. My question is how did that go for starters? And number two, what would be your advice to people out there who do live on minimum wage, and how do you eat healthy when you're living on minimum wage?
Great. Yeah, so that was Morgan's next project after Supersize Me was this series on FX called 30 Days. And one of the first episodes, we went to Columbus, Ohio, and we lived on minimum wage for a month. We both got jobs making the minimum wage. And in Ohio, where we were, they actually had one of the highest minimum wage in the country,
Huh.
and we were barely getting by. Now, in that month, we both had to go to the emergency room. I got a urinary tract infection and he sprained his wrist. And if we had been actually living on minimum wage, that would have
You would have been
totally
screwed.
screwed. We wouldn't have been able to afford rent the next month because we now had $3,000 in emergency room bills, which we couldn't afford. So we realized that we had an end, there was an end game there. We
Right.
had an out. And honestly, it hadn't been that long ago since I had been kind of living on minimum wage. So I have those skills. I know how to cook beans and rice 80 different ways.
Yeah.
You can get rice and quinoa and a few kinds of beans in bulk and bulk spices and herbs from the health food store if you need to. Now, beans and rice, you don't have to buy those things organic. You can buy those things at the regular grocery store
For
and
sure.
supplement it with a few really good quality animal products. But you have to know how to cook. You
Yeah.
have to be really committed to it because it takes time and it takes a lot of planning.
Mm-hmm.
And people who are living on minimum wage may not have the access to that education. They may not even know how to cook.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know how to cook. Most people don't know how to cook anymore. They don't
Yes.
know how to grow their own food, buy it, cook it. So it's those basic life skills that most of us are missing, I think.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing is because I always hear people say, well, it costs so much to be healthy. And my answer to it is, that's bullshit. Because at the end of the day, I remember when I was studying Chinese medicine and I had just moved back to the city, to Toronto, where I live now. And, Toronto is, at least a major city in Canada. And it's like, it's not cheap to live here. And so people would say, "Oh, it's so expensive to eat healthy," but I'm like, I was working two jobs at that time, and I still managed to eat healthy. So I
Yeah,
really disagree with that. I don't think that you have to buy, a $20 bag of goji berries. You can buy
right.
something local. Like, I mean, a super. I'm not a huge fan of the term superfoods because I think it's a bit of a marketing jargon where an apple can be a superfood and it's less than $1. All right. So, Alex, tell me, what is your idea of balance, at least in the digital era? Because obviously things have changed dramatically in the world.
My ideal of balance is that I have to almost on a daily basis check in and see what it is I need to feel the way I want to feel. And there are some new ground rules in my life, no cell phones in the bedroom, no phones at any meal. I am so protective of my sleep time, I need time in nature, I need time alone.
Yeah.
But I also need to feel like my work is of service, and I need to feel like I'm connecting with my kid and giving him what he needs. So those things change on a day-to-day basis. I just turned in the manuscript for my next book.
Fantastic.
And that was months of creative output.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of shifting focus a little bit. Be like, okay, the book is done. What do I need? What does my family need? I can take a breather, a step back from the constant pouring into my business and into the book.
Yes.
So it shifts and changes. There's no perfect. It's just a constant experiment, everything we do. You can't do it wrong, and you can't do it perfect either. So
I hear you. And you already have this book, the Great American Detox Diet. So, tell us this new book, when is it going to come out? It's super exciting. And, can you share with us the title of it?
I'm so excited. It's called Women, Food, and Desire.
Wow.
And yeah. It is not a straight up diet book, but it is how I work with people to help them get the body and the life that they want by learning to listen to their cravings. And give themselves what's really nourishing in all areas of their life. There's an entire chapter on sex, which I'm so excited about. And so, Women, Food, and Desire, and it comes out January of 2015.
That's fantastic. It's coming out in the U.S. market first, I'm assuming?
Yes, U.S. first, and it's already sold some foreign rights, so it's coming out around the world in different places.
That's exciting. And so, when we talk about food and balance and so forth, do you have a cheat food? I mean, do you call it a cheat food? Like, is there something that you're just like, I just love a good Twix bar or something?
I used to love Twix bars, but now they hurt my teeth.
Yeah.
I just can't do high fructose corn syrup.
Yeah.
That's one of the foods that I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No. Like last night, we actually went out and I had truffle fries. Like, oh my God, it was so good. But I don't eat it with ketchup anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's got high fructose corn syrup in it. I love chocolate. I love wine. But I'm so much happier with so much less of it now.
Yes.
I used to eat way more chocolate and drink a lot more alcohol. And now I still have it and I enjoy it, but I really know how to savor, man. That is a skill I have developed. Learning how to savor things and really enjoy them and get the quality that's going to feel good in the moment and later on. I want a food that's going to help me really enjoy my life today and not destroy me tomorrow.
Absolutely. And it's a great way of looking at it. So, and I know that like all of us go through hard times in our life. So how has food, and when we go through hard times in our life, sometimes that's when people fall off the bandwagon because we're just kind of like, screw it, to hell with it. I'm just going to go get myself a burger or, whatever the case is. Was there a hard time in your life where healthy food actually helped you get over something difficult?
Yeah, absolutely. And those were times when I really was struggling with candida, and that candida was causing my depression and my headaches and my weight gain. Yes, eating healthy and avoiding sugar for that stretch of time helped me release all of those symptoms and heal my body. So in times like that, you really need to focus and avoid certain foods. I'm not currently in that space. I'm not trying to avoid or heal a disease right now. So now I can have this more kind of fluid thing with it. But there are definitely times, over the holidays, I certainly consume more sugar, more alcohol. I get less sleep than I should. Yeah. But I'm more balanced with it than I was 10 years ago. And the recovery time is very short, and I know exactly what to do to get back on track to feel good again. So I don't lose hope. I think that's important, an important aspect where you say, that kind of fuck it effect where you're like, fuck it, I'm just going to eat whatever the hell I want for 10 weeks. I don't really get to that point anymore. I'm like, okay, I don't feel so hot. I'm going to just have salads and salmon and green juice and teas until I start feeling really, really solid again.
Yeah, because there's ebb and flow.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that being able to come to terms with that is just a way of actually empowering yourself as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great. Like, I know we've had a little bit of tech issues and stuff back and forth, so you gotta love technology. But, you know, I guess the last thing is, what would you describe, like if you had one word to describe your relationship to food in the past, in the present, and then what would you want it to be in the future? What would those 3 words be?
In the past. In the past. Wow, what was that relationship? Unconscious.
Okay.
I had an unconscious relationship with food.
Yeah.
Currently, I would say savoring.
Perfect.
Perfect. In the future, savoring.
I love it. I love it. I've never had anybody use the same word for the present and the future, which just goes to show that you're in a really healthy place with it, which is awesome.
Cool.
Awesome. And, you know, I really, thank you so much. We've been kind of juggling schedules a little bit, trying to get in touch with each other. So I really appreciate the time and the patience, because, of course, technology has been a little bit of a pain in the row. But, you know.
My pleasure. Hey, you know, Skype sometimes works, it sometimes doesn't, but without it, I would not be able to see your pretty face and talk about these cool things. So it's all good.
Well, it's, you know, it's great. You've done some incredible things. I really applaud the courage that you've had, you know, in all areas of your life, especially like coming out, being so brave, you know, and you continue to do so, especially with your views and how you see food in all aspects of life. So I think we need more, you know, warriors like yourself. So I think it's great, and thank you.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, and I'll be sure to send you a copy of the book when it's ready.
That would be awesome. That would be incredible. I'd love that. And, you know, if there's anything I can do on my end to help further promote it, I would be more than happy to.
Oh, I'll be knocking on your door.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alex, and have yourself an awesome day. And take care, everybody. And definitely check out Alex and all of her awesome goodness. She can be found at alexandra@jamieson.com. The link is going to be right below for you guys to access her awesome information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.